Someone is going to hire the greatest head coach of all time.
I've kind of got an unofficial Bill Belichick watch list, and the Cowboys have been at the top of it.
Almost a dozen teams might seriously consider Belichick. Here are 5 teams that should hire Bill Belichick as their new head coach ASAP, and 5 that he should stay away from. Should hire Dallas Cowboys. Many folks are skeptical that Jerry Jones would seriously consider bringing in Belichick for some pretty obvious reasons. They think the 2 prideful men who carry giant egos could possibly clash and butt heads too often. Not to mention that Jerry would probably refuse to give Bill any real say in personnel decisions. But if Belichick and Jones could just somehow learn to play nice and share, then, this could be the perfect match, at least on paper. The Cowboys have all the talent in the world to be a consistent Super Bowl contender. It's just mediocre coaching and a lack of fundamentals that have led to all these awful playoff meltdowns. Jerry and his coaches of choice, namely Barry Switzer, Jason Garrett, and of course Mike McCarthy, just wouldn't keep players accountable. Now imagine if Belichick came in, put an end to the media circuses, and made players focus strictly on football. Belichick would have a top 5 offense and defense here. Dallas's defense always implodes in January, but that wouldn't happen under Belichick's watch. His championship coaching, experience, and defensive tactics would put Dallas in the best position to succeed in any given playoff game. Avoid New York Giants. Belichick's love and admiration for the Giants organization has been well documented. Before becoming a head coach, he was a Giants assistant from 1979 to 1990, including 6 years as their defensive coordinator. Belichick and Bill Parcells helped Lawrence Taylor and the Giants to 2 Super Bowl championships, making the former a household name long before he became the Patriots head coach and architect of their 21st century dynasty. Belichick might be appealed by the idea of returning to the old stomping grounds, but the Giants do not really make sense for a coach who will be 73 years of age. The Giants have one of the league's worst rosters from top to bottom. Daniel Jones is likely a goner after this year, but then what? Belichick will have to begin a rebuild with a question mark at QB? The O-line needs to be rebuilt around Andrew Thomas, and more weapons around Malik Neighbors are certainly needed. The defense has 3 studs in Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau, and then, honestly, they don't really have anything else. Belichick would have to completely rebuild that secondary, not to mention playing in a division with Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and rising star Jaden Daniels. Regarding the actual roster, well, there's little that should entice Belichick here. If the Giants end up replacing Brian Dable, well, they better look elsewhere. Should hire Cincinnati Bengals. We like Zach Taylor as a head coach, but the Bengals will need to seriously ponder a change if they miss the postseason again, especially if a marquee name like Belichick is available. There is a lot to like about a Belichick-Bengals pairing here. He'd surely love the chance to work with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, both top 5 players in the league at their respective positions. Belichick could easily unlock the potential of a good, not great Bengals defense led by Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, Logan Wilson, Mike Hilton, and Cam Taylor-Britt. One problem for the Bengals has been finishing out close games, with Super Bowl 56 versus the Los Angeles Rams and the 2022 AFC title game against the Kansas City Chiefs coming to mind. There just isn't a coach better suited to handle such situations than the man who owns 8 Super Bowl rings. The Bengals' wide-open championship window with Burrow and Chase makes them perfect for Belichick, who could further cement his legacy by leading another franchise to its first Super Bowl. Avoid New Orleans Saints. Unless the Saints make a surprise return to the postseason, it feels like a blow-it-all-up rebuild is coming up. Dennis Allen is not it as head coach. GM Mickey Loomis, if he's even retained, needs to cut or trade as many expensive veteran contracts as possible. He could get something for the likes of Marshawn Lattimore, Cameron Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis, and, he might as well bite the bullet on Derek Carr and just cut bait. Either scenario is not good for Belichick. He's either taken over a mushy middle team that might be good enough to make the postseason, but not good enough to be realistically pushing for a Super Bowl. And then if the Saints rebuild, why would Belichick want to go there? Look, at this point, the Saints are looking at a rebuild that'll take a minimum of 3 years. Why partner up with Belichick when you can bring in a new quarterback and a young offensive-minded head coach in order to steer that rebuild? Should hire Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars look like a dumpster fire on paper right now, but hey, we remain convinced that with the right head coach, they could fix Trevor Lawrence and turn that long-struggling AFC South club back into a Super Bowl contender. We saw the Jags hit their potential in the second half of 2022, and for most of 2023 when they jumped out to an 8-3 start. But this team has inexplicably folded under Doug Peterson, and changes are certainly in order at the front office and coaching departments. There's just too much young talent for this team to rebuild. Lawrence, Travis Etienne Jr., Brian Thomas, Christian Christian Kirk, Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, and Tyson Campbell? This is not a core that you tear down and rebuild from scratch. So yeah, it would be perfect if the Jaguars just told Belichick to fill out a blank check with his asking price and hire him as their next head coach. Avoid Las Vegas Raiders. If Mark Davis decides to move on from Antonio Pierce after the season, well, it'll be easy to immediately link Belichick to the silver and black. If Davis could give John Gruden $100 million despite being out of coaching for 9 years, who's to say he couldn't hand Belichick an even larger annual salary? Davis might feel inclined to spend top dollar on a big-named head coach to extend the brand of his big-market football team, but this is not the ideal fit for multiple reasons. For one, we're not even sure that this is the place that helps Belichick win. The Raiders lack a suitable long-term option at QB, the Devontae Adams saga means the Raiders are back to searching for a new number one receiver, and the defense is basically single-handedly carried by Max Crosby. Also, how did it work when the Raiders hired Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler again? Not seeing how Raiders players would embrace Belichick's military-style coaching ways if they didn't like McDaniels. The Raiders need to draft and develop a new QB. Belichick couldn't do that with Mac Jones, so he just doesn't feel like the right fit for a Raiders team that has plenty of roster holes that need to be fixed. Should hire? Chicago Bears. They're building something special there with rookie QB Caleb Williams and an underrated defense. But it feels like they could upgrade at head coach. Matt Eberflus's defense has fared just fine, but the offense has never found its groove under his leadership. Williams, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore could use a more old-school coach who would bring tough love, like Bill Belichick could. Before he turned pro, there were concerns about Williams' character and attitude. But, maybe he just needs the best head coach in NFL history to bring a strict approach to help him stay focused and driven to succeed. The Bears have the pieces on both sides of the ball to be a perennial contender. It's about bringing in the right coach to combine the ingredients of a tasty championship recipe, hence giving Chef Belichick a call. Avoid Carolina Panthers. As one of football's richest owners, it's not hard to envision a scenario where David Tepper offers a record-setting contract to Belichick to save his sinking ship. It'd be a bad look on Tepper if he made another coach, in this case Dave Canales, one and done. But Tepper is the type of guy who thinks that he can just take shortcuts to building a proper team. So, what if he were to try and entice Belichick with a pot of gold? Don't do it, coach. Tepper is the worst owner in the NFL now that Dan Snyder is gone. They're probably restarting at QB with Bryce Young destined to go down as a bust, and developing young signal callers just is not your greatest strength, Bill. Oh, and should we even mention that awful offensive line, the helpless defense, or the fact that 34-year-old Adam Thielen and pending free agent Deontay Johnson are Carolina's best two weapons? Yeah, no thanks. Don't do it, Bill. Should hire? Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles look semi-broken to us under head coach Nick Sirianni. The insane talent level is preventing them from sinking to the land of irrelevance, but it still feels like Sirianni has already lost the room. Jalen Hurts' peculiar regression falls on the so-called offensive genius who has proven unable to adapt his system. And maybe, just maybe, Sirianni benefited from two great coordinators in Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen before they left for head coaching gigs in 2023. And we love the idea of Belichick taking over this star-studded Eagles roster. He would clear out all the distractions and get this team back to the fundamentals and basics that willed them to a Super Bowl appearance 2 years ago. The Eagles D might stop underachieving for once too. Imagine Belichick running a unit led by Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat, Jordan Davis, Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, and Darius Slay. Yeah, this guy would restore the Eagles as a prime Super Bowl contender. Avoid New York Jets. If the Jets fall way short of their championship goals in 2024, you gotta think that Robert Saleh will be shown the door. 4 seasons was more than enough time for him to get this program going. At first glance, Belichick to the Jets makes perfect sense. Big market team in win-now mode with Aaron Rodgers and an elite defense. Owner Woody Johnson would be desperate enough to meet Belichick's salary demands, and maybe Belichick wants to stick it to Robert Kraft and the arch-rival Patriots. And who knows? Maybe the Jets want to make up for the disaster of letting Belichick leave for the Patriots back in 2000. But, no, unfortunately. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you actually take a deep step back and look at the big picture. Rodgers' relationship with his coaches always seems to sour. First Mike McCarthy, then Matt LaFleur, and now Saleh. You really think that he'd play nice with the tough love and grumpy Belichick? You think Bill would want his QB to go on podcasts and float strange conspiracy conspiracy theories? Do you really think that Belichick would let Rodgers completely run the offense and locker room all on his own? No, of course not. And we should also mention that a 41-year-old Rodgers isn't going to be playing for much longer. That means Belichick would soon be tasked with rebuilding the Jets, which is not the ideal scenario for either side. But hey, which NFL team do you think Bill Belichick will land with next? Do you agree with our suggestions? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And hey, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.